Hi everyone, it's Dina and I'm back again today with another casual beading tutorial. Today's tutorial we will be making a bracelet using the Rotating Beads of the Month Club, where this month's club of February 2025 we're using the 2-hole beads. Don't forget about my discount code DINA10 to be able to get 10% off your first month's subscription with Beads of the Month and to be signed up to receive the same beads that I do on a monthly basis. That way you can follow along with me and make what I make. So, for the items that you're going to need for this bracelet, these first two items come from the 2-hole Beads in the Month Club that I received this month. You'll need the Alabaster vertical cradle beads, which are these guys right here. You'll need the matte metallic dark blue samos Puca beads. And then this item right here actually came from the Findings Companion Pack, this one as well as the button. I will link the video to that unboxing because I do get those on a monthly basis as well, but that is one of the subscriptions that I get from Adornable Elements that I purchase myself. So we'll need the TierraCast 4mm hex heishi spacer beads, and this is optional. You do not need to have these. You can always just use seed beads instead, and I will explain when that's needed. You'll also need some sort of a button or a closure for your bracelet, and I'm going to use the TierraCast Tree of Life button that came in the companion pack. You're also going to need some seed beads. So I have the Miyuki Crystal Labrador Full. If you're interested in the Miyuki number, it is 55006. Then I have another 11-0, that's the Matte Metallic Midnight. That number is 2014. And then I have a 15-0, which is the Silver Line Crystal, and that number is 1. You're also going to need some beading thread, and I'm using the Wildfire 0.006 inch green in green today. You can use the Dragon's thread size 8, that would work just as well. And then you're going to need some sort of a needle, and I'm using a size 11, but you can use a 10, 11, 12, whatever is something that's comfortable for you. So go ahead and get your supplies out that you're needing. We can go ahead and put away the button, and I'll meet you back and I'll show you that first step that you need to do. Alright, now that you have a comfortable length of thread on your needle, and I'll have the amount of thread that is needed in the description down below because I have not finished the bracelet yet, so I'm not quite sure exactly how long the bracelet's going to be and or how much thread you're going to need. So I'll have that all listed down below. What you'll need to start off with is a stop bead. So I'm just going to pick up one of the silver beads. I'm going to pull it down to the end of the thread. And then I'm going to go back through that silver bead one more time. In doing so, that helps to make a little stop bead down at the bottom of your thread. And just leave a little bit left over so that way you can hold on to it. Just like that. First thing we're going to pick up is one of the vertical or the cradle beads. Then we're going to pick up a 11-0 in the silver, and then we're going to pick up the samos bead. And at this point in time, it doesn't matter which hole that we go through, just as long as the flat side of the samos bead is down against the mat. You can go either through the top or the bottom. At this point in time, it doesn't matter which one. Then we're going to pick up another 11-0 in silver and another cradle bead. So far I have a cradle, 11-0, the samos, 11-0, and a cradle. We also need to pick up one of our, let's do 2 of our 11-0s in the darker color, and I'm going to pick up one of the spacer beads, and then 2 more of the 11-0s. So now we have a cradle, 11 in the silver, a samos, 11 in the silver, a cradle, then 2 of the blues, and the spacer bead and 2 of the blues. So now when you hold this in your hand, you've got the bottom side of the samos bead up against your hand. We're going to go through this other hole of the cradle bead that's over here. So we're basically doing right angle weave, we're just using multiple beads in order to do it. Now we're going to pick up one of the 11 the silver 11-ohs, we're going to go through that second hole of the samos bead, just like that. On the other side of the samos, pick up another 11-oh and go through the other hole of the cradle bead. And on this side of the cradle, we're going to do something similar to what we did on the other side, except we're going to pick up 5 of our darker 11-ohs. After we got those 5 on there, we're going to go back through that original hole of the cradle bead, skipping over and not going through the stop bead that we have sitting there. If you pass through some of the other beads, it's perfectly fine, because we want to get back out to where we're coming out of the first 11-oh after the spacer bead. So if you don't have these spacer beads, all you have to do is just do the same thing that we did down here. Just add 5 seed beads instead of 2 seed beads, the spacer bead, and then 2 seed beads. So I'm coming out of the samos at the moment, so I'm going to go through the next 11-oh and through the cradle. Then I'm going to come out through, go through the 2 11-ohs, the spacer bead, and then come out that second 11-oh. Now we need to get set up to where we can add another cradle bead. So right here, we're sitting to where we're coming out of that first 11-oh right after the spacer bead. So we need to add one more 11-oh to mimic this side, because there's an 11-oh on this side. So we're adding one of the darker 11-ohs, one of the cradle beads, and then you need to pick up your samos bead in the correct fashion. So your samos bead is sitting flat against the mat. We're coming out of the top up here, so we need to go through the top left-hand hole of the samos bead to make sure that it's sitting in the correct direction. Oh, I forgot my 11-oh. So pick up your 11-oh first, then you need to go through that top hole of the samos bead, so that way it's sitting in the correct direction. Pick up another 11-oh and another cradle, and then pull those all down and make sure, double check and make sure that your samos is sitting in the right place. Just like that. Now we need to get from this hole of the cradle to that one. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and add the 5 seed beads. So I have 5 11-ohs in the darker color. Going back through that second cradle, second hole of the cradle. Then we're going to pick up an 11-oh in the silver, go through the second hole of the samos, pick up another 11-oh in the silver, go through the second hole of the first cradle of this section, and now we need to finish out the middle section here, which is just adding one more of the darker 11-ohs. Then we're going to go through the second 11-oh, the spacer bead, and then the third 11-oh. Just like that. And then when you pull tight, and not accidentally pull on the rest of your beads, there we go. When you pull tight, now you have your beads looking like that. So now we need to get ourselves back over here. So go back through the first 11-oh you added on this portion of the step, plus the cradle, plus the silver 11-oh, the samos, the second silver 11-oh, and the second cradle. And to get set up for the next step, you need to go through the first 4 11-ohs on this section. So all we're doing from now on out, if you have the spacer beads, we're just alternating. The next one that you add is going to have a spacer bead in it. So you'll add your cradle, your 11-oh, your samos 11-oh cradle, and then you'll add this section right here. The one after that, the 4th section that you add, then it's going to look like this one. So that'll be the next section, that's what it's going to look like, and then the one after that will look like that. So continue on for the length of the bracelet that you need, and then meet me back and I'll show you the next step. Alright, so I have now on my bracelet, I have used 10 of the samos beads. I've used 5 of the spacer beads if you have those, and then I've used 20 of the vertical cradle beads. So now that we're on this side of the bracelet, we're going to go ahead and add our button. So go ahead and get your button out. I'm currently coming out of the middle of the 5 of the 11 O's that are sitting there. So I'm coming out of the third one. I'm going to pick up 5 more seed beads. I'm going to go ahead and use just the dark blue ones. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the button along with it, and those seed beads should travel through that button as well. If it doesn't, then we'll well, no, actually it doesn't look like they're going to travel through very well. Okay, so we're only going to pick up, yeah, there's 1 seed bead stuck in there. So let's pick up just 3 seed beads. And then we'll go through the button, and then we'll pick up 3 more on the other side. So I've got 3 seed beads, the button, and then 3 more of our seed beads. Alright, so I'm coming out of that middle seed bead. I'm going to go back through that middle seed bead. Then we're going to travel through the 3 seed beads plus the button, and then the 3 seed beads on the other side 2 more times. So this is to just get enough thread through it, because your button is always going to be the part of the bracelet that's going to get most of the tension. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of thread. If you have a wire guard available, this would be where you can use a wire guard as well, and just try to thread the wire guard through the shank of the button. That would be also something that you can use, and that would help with the stability a little bit better than just using thread and beads. So just whatever you have on hand. But I would go through these beads at least 3 times if you're just using thread. If you can get through them a 4th time is even better than 3. Just depends on if you can get through it or not, because you don't want to start breaking beads. Alright, but I'm going to leave it just like that, just at 3. So now we're going to get ready for the next step. So go back through that 11O in the center, and then travel through the 2 11Os down on the side that are sitting above the cradle. And now we're going to go down this side of the bracelet, this right side of the bracelet with the way that I'm holding it right now. So I'm coming out of that last 11O up here. I'm going to go through the cradle and go through the silver 11O. Now we're going to add some silver beads around the samos beads. So pick up 4 of your silver ones, and then go through the next silver bead. You can go ahead and pass through the cradle and come out that first blue 11O. From here, this is where you'll need your 15s. So I'll bring these in real quick. I've got them on the black felt so you can see them. And in between the 2 blue 11Os, we're going to add 1 15 and then go through the next blue 11O. The first one there. So don't go through the 3 that we already passed through on either side. So you have 3 right here, or you have 11, the spacer bead, and then the 11. Just go through the 1 11 that's sitting right up against the cradle bead. And if you go through the cradle and the next 11, the silver one, then that's fine, because that's where you need to go to next. And then just like on the other side, add 4 of your 11s. Coming out of the silver, go through the next silver. So just continue this all the way down to the other side of the bracelet, and then meet me back and I'll show you how to do the loop for the button. Alright, so now that we're down the first side of our bracelet, we're back down to the beginning again, and this is where we need to make the loop for our button. Now I've already tested it out just a little bit, just to see if it's going to work, and I think 26 of your 11Os is going to work just fine. So I already have 26 11Os already on the thread, so you don't have to watch me count out all of that. And I'm going to go straight through that middle seed bead again. So we were coming out of that middle seed bead at the 26, and then go back through that middle seed bead one more time, just like what we did on the other side. Now before you go any further, you always want to double check it. So I'm moving the starter thread out of the way, and then I'm keeping the working thread wrapped around my fingers so it's tight so I can test the button. So I'm just holding tight to the loop, and then I'm going to put the button through it and make sure that the button closes around the loop. And it does. There's a little bit of tension, but we're about to go through this loop at least 2 more times, just like we did with the button itself. So it should work. So 26 should be okay. Now if you're using a different type of seed bead, or if you use a different coating of a seed bead, sometimes you have to increase and or decrease the amount of seed beads that you use. Also depends on the size of the button that you're using also. So we're just going to go back through this loop 2 more times, and then that will give 3 rounds of thread through the button. It'll give 3 rounds of thread through the loop. So it'll be somewhat secure for you. And if you're anything like I am, I'm pretty rough on my jewelry. I usually have a hard time wearing bracelets at work because I usually bang them on the counters, and when I'm putting up stock and stuff like that, they sometimes get ripped and torn apart, and so I try to make my buttons as stable, or my bracelets as stable as possible at the clasps, just for that itself. So halfway through the loop the 3rd time, then I'll get you set up for the other side of the bracelet, and then we're almost done. Alright, so now we're going back through that last button in the bracelet, or in the loop. Maybe. And then we're going to go back through that middle seed bead again. So we're going back through that middle seed bead. Go through the other 2 11-ohs that are on this side of the cradle bead, and then just like we did on the other side, go through the cradle, come out the 11-oh here, then add your 4 silver 11-ohs, and go on back down this side of the bracelet, doing the same thing that we did on the other side. Go back through the silver 11-oh, the cradle, the blue 11-oh, add your 15, go through the next blue, and so on and so forth. So go ahead and complete this side of the bracelet, then meet me back down on the other side, and I'll show you how to tie off and finish it off. Alright, so now that we're done finishing with adding our beads on both sides of the bracelet, now we're back down to where the button's at, and we need to tie off. So if you're not familiar about how to tie off, then you can follow my instructions. So I'm coming out of the cradle bead. What I'm going to do is put my needle underneath, or inside that little loop of the 5 seed beads. I'm going to create another little loop right here with the thread that I'm going to go back through that loop. Then I'm going to make sure that that loop stays in between the cradle and that first seed bead, and then I'm going to pull tight. And then that is your first knot made. On bracelets, I would usually suggest to do about 3 or 4 of these. At least. You can do more. You can do less sometimes. But I would suggest to do at least 3 or 4. So I'm not going to go through the loop of the button. I'm just going to work my way through those 5 seed beads, come out the other side. And then I'm going to do another knot in between this 5th seed bead and the cradle bead sitting here. So I'll do another knot there. So I'm going underneath the bridge thread, so basically through that loop. I'm creating a circle or a loop with my thread. I'm going through that loop. Then I'm making sure that the thread stays in between the seed bead and the cradle bead. And then pulling tight, and that's your next knot. So that's all you do, is you just tie this off several times. just keep going through your beads and following the thread path and everything. And I usually like to try to do all of these knots on the back side. Like I'm coming through that first seed bead right now in between the 11-0 and the samos bead. Going to do my third knot here, making sure that thread stays right there. And then I'm going to go through the samos bead and then come out and go ahead and burn off right here. So you just burn off your thread, leave about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch, and then use your thread burner and get the end of that thread balled up next to the bead, and that helps keep it stable so where the knot won't come out. So there's your knot done. So put a needle on this end of your thread, which is your beginning of your thread, take your stop bead off, and do the same thing on that side, and you will have a completed bracelet. Alright, so here's our completed bracelet and what it looks like on the wrist. And then here's the button. This one's actually a little bit bigger than what I usually wear. I usually wear about a 7 1/4 to 7.5. This one's closer to about a 7.5 to 8 inch bracelet. So there's our finished bracelet. So thank you very much for watching. And don't forget about my coupon code DINA10 to get yourself 10% off your first month's subscription with adorable elements on Beads of the Month Club, the rotating Beads of the Month Club. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that way you'll be notified whenever I come out with new videos. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.